but what about Lizard? What about Lizard? Lizard wasn't innocent. And it's not thinking about, the matter is not thinking about, the person who died. The matter is about the law and Vybz Kartel being a person, a human being like you and like me, who would have wanted our constitutional rights to be observed. That's my take on it. And when I followed the case and I listened to his lawyer preach and teach about constitutional rights, that's what I go by. I was up earlier with all the Vybz Kartel commotion and stuff. Now, when I followed the case for some time and whatever, and listened over the years, listened to both sides and whatever, and I agree that a lot of the evidence was compelling. And something happened and Vybz Kartel's name was mentioned. And not just him, but people close to him and somebody who he was acquainted with went missing. Nobody was found. But we know that there are ways in Jamaica that people get rid of bodies. Now, I didn't draw an opinion in the first case. I would have loved for them not to have had those compelling evidences and stuff, like with the phone and conversations that they had gathered from the phones and stuff. So when those came out, I was like, oh my goodness, geez, it sounded like him do it, and it was really heartbreaking and sad. Come around now to the appeal years later and all of the stiff stuff around what happened and whatever. I wasn't forming any sort of opinion throughout or saying if this happen, this should happen, that should happen, because I am not qualified legally. And I know that when you go to court with a case, it is for them to convict you of the crime or not, or for you to be acquitted of the crime. So you have two parties who are going to argue your guilt or your innocence. And you as the client, you have a part to play as well. So you're going to provide information to your lawyers and stuff, and you're going to help them in whatever way you can to try and prove your innocence. Or if you're guilty, you're going to try and convince them that you're not. And you would have had to, Vybz Kartel is not silly. So whether he was involved in something or not involved in something, he would have studied the law and he would know that these people are faltering, and he would have had serious conversations with his lawyer, and he would be able to see that they're not doing the case properly. And there is a way, if he's guilty, there is a way for him to break, like he knows that they have to completely find him fully guilty and without any loopholes or stuff like that. And there are always like loopholes because the law was written in a certain way to protect people, because as much as you have people who in general who might be arrested for a crime that they committed, you also have people who were arrested for crimes that they did not commit. So the law is written in a way to protect everybody, because sometimes innocent people are trying to be proven guilty by parties. We know this. Many people. So it's a general rule for everybody. It's not just one rule for Vybz Kartel. Now, why I'm doing this video is because a lot of people are blinded by that fact that the law is written for everybody. It's written for the innocent, it's written for the guilty, it's written for the innocent who has been charged with something, who they are trying to say that that person is guilty when they're not. So we have to remember that the law is there for even us. We could be accused of doing something that we haven't done, and they would want to try and find every evidence to prove that we are guilty. And we have to find a loophole to say, no, look. And sometimes too, you're in the wrong place, wrong time. and it look like you're guilty for true, and it's not you. Look how much people we know in America walking or wherever, walking down the street when a crime happens, a camera picks them up, and it would seem as if it was them only because they were in that area, or they would have probably touched the weapon by accident or something like that, right? So there are loopholes. The law is written for everybody, and this is why, when I listen to Isaac Buchanan argue and talking about law, it intrigues me. And there was a time when I said I wanted to do law. It's really intriguing. Now, the constitutional law, I was looking it up. What does the word constitution mean? I'm going to come back with that. Now, constitutional rights, and this meaning is taken. It says Rights, the Constitution Society. It's an official website in the UK, an official page. consoc.org.uk. So it's the constitution page itself. It says, what is constitutional rights? Rights are a constitutional issue because they place legal limits on the power of public authorities over their citizens. Power of public authorities over their citizens. So you have a certain authority over the citizens, over the people that lives in the country, and set out fundamental things those authorities must ensure are provided and protected. Fundamental things means essential, necessary, must. Fundamental things, those authorities. So the legal system are the authorities. They must ensure that certain things are provided and protected. Now, that is a general definition. Certain things are provided and protected. Remember that the law is for innocent and for guilty and for mistakenly arrested, for everybody. And so even if you're guilty, you can use it to your benefit. If you're innocent, you use it to your benefit. If you're if you are accused of a crime, you use it to your benefit. It is there for everybody as a protection. The lawyers, they learn these constitutional rights. It's a broad thing. So even the matter in Vybz Kartel's case of the way the trial is run and the rules around the jury system and how many should be there, and if one of them get into a problem, what if one of them gone mix up with the whatever, saying and doing all these things, bribery or whatever, what the rules are there because now it's contaminated, because they can rule, because if they're going to bribe somebody, the bribe can say, the persons who are asked to be bribed, they can now say, you want me to rule in favor of this man, mega rule away from it, because that means him guilty, because you are telling me to rule in favor of him. And then on the other hand, some people might say, all right, I'm going to go by what you say, and I'm going to rule in favor. So and then the trial then is not fair. The trial, the decision that's going to now be made by the jury cannot wholly and solely be recognized as fair. At the beginning of the whole cartel case, I didn't say hey nor they, right? I would have, as an artist that we come to love, and his music, and he's so, it's so good, he's so talented. I was very sad when I heard that all of this happened. And when I heard the evidences, I was like, oh my goodness, this look like this not sound good, because all these voice notes with his voice and stuff does not sound good. Another thing was the tampering of the phones and whatever. the Jamaica judicial system, not maybe, and the police, like things just so wishy-washy. You see, if you feel like it's so sure says somebody commit a crime, you need to be able to prove it, especially somebody who's not going to sit down and let you get away with certain things. Vybz Kartel is no idiot. He would have read up on all these matters, and he would have been following himself closely, and he would have been speaking to his lawyers, and he would have been taking in everything that those lawyers are telling him, because the lawyers know the law and they know the loopholes. So in my opinion, when this thing came down to all the flaws that were there, and when it went to the Privy Council, so leading up to the Privy Council, I was very much reading. I was reading up on and listening to everything that went wrong. I was listening to the constitutional laws and how they come into play now with everything that happened, and thinking of Vybz Kartel and the co-accused as people, not as somebody who I've already put it in my head, say him do it, and he's done other things, because you hear people say him do other things. Those other things that he, she, or the old lady might say he's involved in is not in this trial. This trial is about Clive Lizard, whatever his name, Williams. That's what this is about. You have to be able to prove it. And if a lot these things probably happen with people who don't have the resources or the facilities to fight their case like Vybz Kartel did. So he was able to take it to the Privy Council. There might have been a lot of people who were innocent, and the prosecution, they so want to win that they've made it out to seem as if these people are guilty, and they could not do what a Vybz Kartel could have done. So I'm not thinking of him as, oh, him involved in this and him involved in that, because none of us are innocent wholly and solely. All of us have family members who have made mistakes, who have erred, who have done things, and we love them. He's still somebody's son, somebody's father, somebody's whatever. And I know other people are going to say, oh, but what about Lizard? What about Lizard? Lizard wasn't innocent. And it's not thinking about, the matter is not thinking about, the person who died. The matter is about the law and Vybz Kartel being a person, a human being like you and like me, who would have wanted our constitutional rights to be observed. That's my take on it. And when I followed the case and I listened to his lawyer preach and teach about constitutional rights, that's what I go by, and that is why I was happy. And when there was a post months ago, when after the Privy Council case, and I was trying to find it again today on Instagram under the Gleaner or something, and I went under there and I commented why, similar things to what I'm saying now, why I think that Vybz Kartel should be set free. If you wanted to, if you're so sure that he's guilty, then do the thing that the way it should be done. You can't have somebody's phone in evidence and police use the phone to make phone calls. You can't do that. And then you have to, and this shows that, and we know, especially for people who travel, we know that Jamaica is a whole bandolo backdoor. Love my country to pieces, but you just need to know somebody, and all of these things is why the case failed, and they could not prove without any reasonable doubt that Vybz Kartel was guilty, because with the way how we do things, because if we didn't do things in the way that we did, the whole jury pool would have had to come up, change. Everybody would have had to change. But we think we can butcher things and chop up things and piece of things like patty shop, like we say. You know, you can know a person. Somebody can have a car accident, and you can go to the police, and the police just drag it out. So the person who's going to the station to make a report, the police them dash with them reports because you know somebody. So the whole system is flawed. And if this had gone to court and them say they're going to do the whole trial again, it would be even a bigger embarrassment, because they would have had to be piecing together old evidence that wasn't even strong in the first place. And they would have had to be, I don't know how they would have done it, possibly, because people are not going to want to go through all of that again. How were they going to do a new trial when this trial was such a mess in the first place? How would any higher court look at Jamaica? It would just look like it's just out of spite and out of shame-face to even go further with it. You see, I sit and I listen to Isaac Buchanan leading up to the trial, and him explain some things about constitutional right down to the T. And I said, what this man is saying, and I followed the trial. I listened to the trial itself, and I read the paperwork, and I listened to the lawyers in England, in the Privy Council, and their take on everything. The law is the law. The lawyers and the judges in Jamaica, they know the law, and they are not above the law. They've studied the law, they believe in the law, and that is why they do the job that they do. The law, you can't just pick out piece of the law and don't pick out the other piece of the law, because the whole constitutional law is there for everybody, not just for one person. Guilty, innocent, accused, and not guilty, it's there for everybody. So every little piece of the law, because even though we're talking about the constitutional right, it's not just one little thing, it's a whole big web of intricate things where one thing can affect something else. So we can't just nitpick and say, yeah, the law, but we're not going to follow it. We're going to do our own thing same way. It doesn't work like that. If they want it, so this is why, that's all I'm saying. Do the job properly and get whatever conviction you want to get. You never do the job properly, and you're trying to still pretend as if you did by getting in your feelings when the Privy Council came back and said what they said. And all of this, you're in your feelings over it when you erred, you didn't do your job properly. So whose fault is that? Now some people are going to say, oh, what about Clive family? What about this? What about that? What about it? The men did 13 years and they did not prove that they were 100% guilty of the crime. The law is the law. Nothing else right here so matters. It don't even matter that Vybz Kartel is sick. It's not because Vybz Kartel is sick why them let him out. Because a lot of sick people in prison. Them let him out because the case wasn't handled properly. They could not prove that he did anything. They couldn't prove it. So it is what it is. He's already spent 13 years he wasn't proven guilty. Well, at first he was, and then it was thrown out, it was quashed. So that guilty sentence never mean nothing, no. That threw out the door, because that case seemed to be foolishness. So what? It's finished. It's finished. The 13 years for Lizard is done. The 13 years, it will have to do, the family will have to hold on to that, and the family is going to have to blame the prosecution. If they're so sure of what happened, they'll have to blame the prosecution. Remember that they were arguing about shoes, and we know what the shoes are. So why is it that he's arguing the voice note to talk about shoes? What are shoes? Was he an innocent person? How many people have Lizard probably done things to in the past if they're arguing over shoes? If you know, you know. So, yeah, it is what it is. The man spend enough time back and forth with all of this and no can't prove him guilty. So, him gone home for chill with him family, and I don't give any a monkey's bottom of what any repercussions that might be coming after this video. Me say, and this has nothing to do with who I support in dancehall, because me listen to everybody. I love Alkaline. Alkaline, but it's here, this or see this or whatever, I'll say whatever. I don't support artists like that. If I love Vybz Kartel's music. I love Alkaline's music. I love Mavada's music. Me just love music. Me just like to dance and enjoy myself. Anybody sing it, I'm gonna dance and I'm gonna have a good time to it. But I miss say vendetta. But fair is fair. Vybz Kartel is a legend. Hey, you better know. I wish him all the best, and I hope he stays on the straight and narrow, and I hope he gets some medical attention, some good medical attention, because we all know he needs it, and put this behind him, because he was not proven guilty, because the previous case was quashed, not squashed, quashed. Thank you for watching. This is Petro Francis reporting live from her bed in England. Bye.